Hi, I'm Sharon.
And I'm Martin. Hello, good morning. Good afternoon.
We're Light Collective, and we're the founders of the Women in Lighting project, and we're really happy to be here with you all celebrating the third anniversary of the project.
Absolutely. The next section is called Global Journeys, and we're going to have a chat with a different person in each time zone about their journeys in light.
So if you have a question for our next speaker, please put them in the Q&A section and we'll try and ask them.
First up, though, on our global journey is Jett Blyth from Melbourne. Good morning, Jett. Welcome.
Hi.
Hello.
How are you?
We're really good, thank you. It's really, really early here, so we're a bit like, whoa, spaced out. But no, it's good.
Yeah. That's great. It's afternoon here, so we pretty much had our day.
Can we kick off by getting you to explain to the audience exactly what you do?
Yeah, sure. So I am an electrician. So we do all the wiring in houses. So all the lighting that is designed, we're the ones that go and install it to your specifications or plans. I have my own business with my husband. We're both electricians, and yeah, so it's pretty much what we do.
Are you also? I remember there was something about you also being on call at night for something extra.
Yes. So with like shopping centres, it's called a group called Tempo. So we go and we check the safety in all their switchboards and make sure the emergency lighting's working. And we do that every 6 months and 12 months, depending on which visit is. So one, we'll go in and check the switchboards, make sure there's no damage, everything's working correctly. And then on the second visit, we'll go and make sure all the emergency lighting's working. So it's pretty much all just safety. We'll do the test and tagging. So we'll test all the appliances and make sure they're all working like they should. So if there's like a live wire somewhere, we'll be able to pick it up and find it, make sure everyone's safe.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Do you work on any like specific types of project? Do you specialise in anything, or is it across the board?
Yeah, we mostly do like high-end luxury houses, which are great. So we do have a lot of challenges with them, but that's pretty much what our business mostly works on.
If you could pick any type of project that you could work on, would it be residential or would it be something else? What like I don't know, a ship, a museum, a hotel, a bar? Yeah.
Yeah, some of the things that I see there is some really nice bathrooms. Actually, for some reason, there's some really high-end, beautiful bathrooms with some very different lighting. They have mirrors that have like LEDs. Lighting around them that changes color, and it really like if there's a certain tile or like a pattern within a tile, it really like lights it up, and even baths with LED lighting around them. It's crazy. There's some really cool stuff.
Oh wow! So how did you sort of get this job? How did you sort of end up being an electrician? What qualifications did you have to do?
So I did a few different jobs just after I left school. I wasn't sure what I wanted to do, but my husband, I met him when I was very young, and he would usually tell me about his job, and I'm like, God, that sounds so interesting. Like I wanted something that was physical, that was challenging, and I liked being outdoors, like having a job where I was in the same place all the time. I struggled with that sort of thing. Like I just love change, and when I started doing trade, just the people, like their personalities, they're so great. There are some really great people in trades, and I love working with tools. Even as a kid, I remember I said to my dad, I was like, hey, do you think I could do a trade? And he was like, nah, don't do it because you won't get much work because you're a woman. So then I kind of was like, oh, okay, I'll leave it then. Did a few things, and then I was talking to Philip again, that's my husband, and he's like, oh yeah, no, you won't like it either. Electrical's not for girls. And he said the same thing, and he did not like me working. I was like, you know what, stuff you, I'm going to go do it anyway. So then I started, so when you do electrical, in Australia, we have a thing called a pre-app, which is like a pre-apprenticeship. So you can go and study it for 3 months and see whether you like it or not. I loved it, and because I don't like talking about it because it's just silly, but I have ADHD. So me concentrating in school has always been quite hard. But for some reason, my brain just stuck to this. I was picking up everything. I was learning it really quickly, and I loved it. So then I continued, and then you do 4 years of on tools and also 1 day a week at school. And then, so once you finish your 4 years, you get signed off. because you need time on the job and you need the schooling, and then you do 2 exams and then you become an A grade. So that's how that happened. And like the whole time I was saying to Philip, because you have to find a group to work with for them to sign you up so that you can go to school and support you.
Yeah.
And he was like, no, you're not working with us, because he had another business. He's like, no, you're not doing it. And I was like, oh, okay. So then I went and found another group, and their first question, I remember my old boss, he said, oh, there's a girl here, which was at a gym when I was young. I used to work at a gym. And he's like, there's a girl here who she's interested in she needs to be signed up to go to school. And the first question he asked was, is she pretty or is she like a butch? And it's just like, if I was a guy, seeing this like women related, if I was a guy, I would not have been, that wouldn't have been a question. It would have been like, oh, is he smart, or, does he know what he's doing? But instead, it's like, there's a girl here, it's straight up, hey, is she good looking or is she like a butch girl? It's like, oh, okay, sweet. And then the guy told me that was their first question. I was like, yay. But then the good thing was they did like me, so I was signed up, and they were really great. They were really great electricians in the end anyway. So
and you're obviously passionate about it, though. You can tell from just the way you talk and stuff that you really enjoy the job.
What does your dad? What does your dad think now? What does your dad?
He loves it, and he tells people about it. Like it's so good. He's like, oh, this is my daughter. She's an electrician. Or he'll call up and be like, oh, I want to put some fans in today. Can you come and install them? Or I want to change some lights. Can you come and do that? But then he still has to do, he's like, oh, do you know what this is? And do you even know how to do this? It's like, okay, Dad, we get it. You work on houses, because he did like home maintenance. So it's always like he has like a little thing where he's got to be just the guy, So I'm like, okay, I'll let him have it. Go for it.
So can you describe like a typical day at work to us, the sort of things you're doing?
Yes. So, yesterday we rocked up. So when we start a job, we've usually got 3 different parts to it. So, we'll go and do the undergrounds first. So the undergrounds is where usually they'll get someone on site to dig a hole, or sometimes even like a trench that goes from the mailbox, like the front door, or like the power meter in the street. So it goes from there, and then that will go into the house, which is where the switchboard is. So that's the first thing. And then we leave that, and then they usually start building after that. Well, there's usually like a somewhat of a house already there, and then we'll go and either run the mains in then, or the other day the house was already built and we had to move them. So that was fun. It's not fun, but yeah. So that's one day. So one day we'll go and do mains, and then another day it's called a rough-in, which is where we'll go run all the cabling. So we'll have a plan given to us of where the lighting, power, and everything should be, and then we'll go rough in the cables. So that's another day, which includes like just putting on, we got like, what are they called? Stud brackets, sorry. Yeah. We're going to put stud brackets on and all that. So we plan out where everything is. So another day we'll go back, and then we'll do something called a cutout. So that's where we cut out, they'll put the plaster boards up, like another trade will come and put all the plaster in, and then we will go and cut out where we need our power points and switches and pull all our cables through, and then we'll get them ready, and then more trades come through and do their jobs. And then when that's done, we do another thing called a fit off, which is where we'll put all the switches and plates and everything on, ready to go. And then we'll do we'll power it up, and we'll do a test and commission, which is like we just make sure everything's working, everything's safe. And yeah, so it depends what we're going to the site for, will depend on what day we're doing. So, yeah.
So have you got a project that you are most proud of that you've worked on in your career, and why are you most proud of it?
I think because it was one of my first jobs that I ever did, we were working on an apartment building, and it was just one of the first, I think just because it was all so new, there was so many people on site. I was working with some really cool guys, like just learning and running through all the apartments and running up and down and doing everything all day. I'm probably the most, it's not like it was like a project that I am proud of, but I'm just really happy that I did it, because I just, every time I think about electrical, I always think that was just so fun. Just learning to see how much power is actually put into an apartment building to get it going. The cables that run in there are massive. So just to power the whole place, it's crazy. But I really liked it.
It's quite nice to have a sort of slightly different viewpoint from the design end to your end, where you're actually building what is designed. What do you think's have you got any challenges that you feel you've had to overcome to get to where you are? I know
Yes.
you've got
Your dad, your husband.
yeah, your dad and your husband and all of the other
Yeah.
electricians on the site, but
So I think as a woman in trade, you do have to put up with like the jokes. Like I know a lot of people like, oh, you know, women need to be equal, which we do, but I feel like in some things like women in trades, we are going into a very men dominated environment. So it's not like we're going to go in there all of a sudden and be like, oh, it's a woman, like be respectful or whatever, because you know you're going to have to put up with the jokes and you're going to be like. If something's not right on site, it's always going to be like, oh, Rosie must have done it. Or Jett, sorry. Well, Jett's my... Anyway, I get called Rosie and Jett, so whichever. But, yeah, so that sort of thing. And you got to be able to have a bit of a wit to get back, because I know a lot of people I have on my Instagram, I get a lot of young girl Sparkies that are just starting out messaging me going, how did you put up with this? But I just say you just got to be quick-witted. Like, just don't try and take it to heart, because a lot of guys, I think, as just guys, they love to joke around with each other and make fun of each other, and because it's so normal for them. But girls, I feel like, don't do it as much. So when you go into that environment, and then you're always going to be like making fun of you or whatever, you just got to be like, okay, cool, and then hit them back with something even better, which makes them like, oh, okay, I didn't like that. It's like, well, neither did I, but I'm dealing with it. So. Yeah. But usually they're pretty cool. It's mostly jokes. But if you're not good with like that sort of joking around where it's serious but not serious, it's probably, I think they'll find it quite difficult. And if you can't, like, of course you're going to get the sexualization, like the jokes about, you know, just anything. Oh, you're not wearing shorts today or something like that. Like you're going to get it. But it's like, just don't take it to heart. It's just guys being guys. And I think a lot of girls get really frightened by that sort of thing. But, you know, I just think...
I guess the more people that follow you into the career, more young girls that are doing it, though, that's going to normalise as well. So it's brilliant that you're sort of leading the way and getting more and more women and girls into the career.
There's definitely a lot. Yeah, there's definitely a lot more girls coming into it now. Like when I first started, it was actually a guy that encouraged me to start making an Instagram and like documenting all my work. When I first started, there was no girls in it. Like I barely ever got a message from any girls just starting and saying, hey, I'm just starting. Can you help out? Like, what should I do in this situation? They'll tell me they're struggling with comments or something. And I'll say, okay, this is how you deal with it, whatever. But now, like, there's so many other girls starting their Instagrams, and it's so good to see. Because now I'm getting I don't really see many girls on site, but like I've heard I've got this friend that's doing it or this friend, and I like now I'm starting to hear this more when I didn't used to. So it's great.
Do you ever get involved in the lighting design for a project?
We can. So we work with it's a bit of an odd situation. It doesn't normally happen, so it's not normal for electricians. But we have an architect he's also a building supervisor. So he can come to us, he'll say, oh, this is what I'm thinking as a design, and he'll show us, and then we can be like, no, like this is not going to work. Like, and also a lot of placement in the houses. Like some people really love downlights here for some reason. It's a huge thing at the moment where everybody's changing like the one little batten light in the lounge room to downlights. Yeah. And sometimes they just think that one downlight's not bright, and then we have to be like, oh, no, this is way too many. Like, you know, it's going to be so bright in here, it's just not going to be comfortable. So that sort of thing. And sometimes he'll bring us lights that just don't suit a certain area, and we usually suggest something better. Like we'll say, okay, we've got this option instead. Maybe this might work. We've got the knowledge on how bright things are going to be, how it's going to look more. And if it sits on the wall funny, we're kind of like, you might want to change the back design of this. It won't look very good the way it's sitting in this certain area. So things like that we can help with. Or if they want certain things, they're like, oh, I don't know how you're going to do this, but can you do this? And it's just like, okay, we can offer some advice in that sort of like way, I guess.
What's the most difficult lighting scheme you've ever done? Like any crazy chandeliers or anything of it?
Yes. Oh my God. So this was funny because you guys are like previously I've been asked this question and I didn't really have much to say, but then 2 days ago this came up. So I was like, perfect. This is a good one. So there was a a builder we're working on one of his houses at the moment, and he originally wanted us to put 6 downlights in a room, and we're like, okay, cool. And then we rock up and there's this chandelier in a box, like this massive chandelier, and I'm like, what? And I said to Philip, I'm like, what's this? I thought we were doing downlights. He's like, oh no, he changed his mind. And I was like, oh, okay, all right, well, we'll just run a cable to the center and we'll fit this off. And he's like, yeah. And I pull it out of the box and it is in pieces. Like, we actually have to put it together from scratch. So it's not like you lift it from the box and it's all there. I had to like run every single little string of like diamondies on it, and then to each little candle bit, and then I was sitting there for ages. Philip gave up in like the first 5 minutes. He's like, I'm just leave this to you. I'm not doing this. And then we went to the other side, and there was this massive, like, it's like, I think they call it a waterfall chandelier. It like runs down. Okay. But they had like these really big crystal balls with lights inside. And we had just a tiny bit of scaffolding on like the edge of a balcony type thing. So we had to climb over this, and originally the balcony was supposed to be like 2 meters high, but he was worried about his kids falling down. So he built it even higher. So it was like 2.5, 3 meters. So we had to climb over that onto the tiny bit of scaffolding and put up this really heavy chandelier, which had screws that were, say, like the base of it was about, I'm trying to shape, like that thick, but then the screws for it were that thick. So like, well, that high. So we had to like hold this onto the roof, and it had all the transformers and all the wiring inside for all these lights. So Philip was like, he's got a bad back at the moment. So he was trying to hold it up with his head and his neck. And I'm like trying to get these screws on. And he's just like, this is not working. And it was a nightmare. And it was probably the hardest chandelier we have ever had to put up, just because of the location, how heavy it was, and how the design of it. It was just so hard to get those screws on to hold the base up. So, yeah, never again.
That's a really good link into where we've got a couple of questions in the chat. We've got one from Aviva, who is in Australia, a designer. And she says, if you could provide feedback to lighting designers and electrical engineers with regards to drawings, schedules and specifications, what would it be? Tips, maybe some tips.
We've never really been asked this, so that's a really good question. No one ever thinks to say, hey, can we design this better for the electricians?
Yeah.
But it is good if we have some sort of, if we know like the installation of the actual lighting. So sometimes some things have plugs, sometimes they don't. Like we were given I think it was like a towel rack. And it had lighting on it as well, but there was no instructions on how to actually install it. But the other day we were given a chandelier which had a hook, so we could so we put the base on that holds against the timber, and there was a hook on it, so we could install it, and the hook would hold the light up. Never come across that, and oh my god, it was amazing. So there's no like holding up, but. Yeah, sometimes if it's if it is a heavy light, it is great if we know that too. Like if we're given, especially in commercial, if the light's going to be really heavy, we need to know that. So we went to the house another day, and there was a chandelier that we were also given, and we were told 13 kilos. So we're like, oh, okay, well the base will hold that up. But then we still ended up, after this house was complete, we still had to find a way to get in because it was way heavier than that. Like we took it out, but once all the pieces were on it, it was about 30 kilos. Yeah. So if we can know that before, like those sorts of things, especially weights and just sometimes the design, so we can put it in the room properly, because we always find that out when it's given to us. It's like, here you go,
so
make it work.
Nobody sort of sits down with you and talks you through the design and says, this is why we've done this, and gives you... I've done that on schemes before, and I've found when you generate a really good working relationship with the electrician that's installing it, the job goes so much better. It's
yes, 100%, because then better and quicker, because if we come across something we've never done before, or we weren't expected to have, like what happened with the chandelier and then the really heavy one the other day, we would have made the job from 4 hours to 1. Because we would have been ready for it, and it would have been previously installed, ready for it to go. But because it wasn't, we got to like pull up roofs and just climb in, and it's hard. And then you're on like these weird angles trying to fit in like in between all like the roofing. like it was the other day, and it's like 40-degree days, and you're just in there trying to get a piece of timber in while Philip's down there trying to screw it in, and you're like, I'm putting weight on it, and he's like, no, you're not, it's coming up. But it's just, it is funny, like for someone that has to watch, but it just makes our job so much longer when we don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah, we've got another question actually in the chat, which is another one from Australia, from Emily at Foss Lighting. Hi Jett, what is your experience with smart lighting or smart integration as an electrician? Do you see this just as a fad or the future of lighting? So sort of smart control.
Okay, yeah. So at the moment, I've been really looking into Kasambi. I think that's the pronunciation of it. But I think, so one of our builders have asked for it. So I think in the future, definitely is going to be everywhere, especially if everybody starts having it, the prices are going to come down of even just installing it and getting all the parts. Because if everyone wants it, then, supply and demand at the moment. And then if it's not, it's like, okay, cool, everyone's got it. But in saying that, so with Kasambi, you will be able to remove switches from housing, which some people can be, like at the moment, because I was explaining to one of our builders about doing it, and I've been studying it a lot recently. People are a bit funny about it. So they're like, you can use your whole phone, you can use a remote just to be able to control the lighting. You can walk into you don't even have to be in the room to control the lighting. You can be downstairs, or if you like set it up well enough within the networks, you don't even have to be in the building. You can be somewhere else in the world and you can control the lighting from the room you're in. But some people be a bit funny about that. Like I was saying, we don't need switches, you won't need to do this. He's like, yeah, I don't know about that. What if something goes wrong? Then you can't turn a light on in the house. It's like, but I think once it's more normalized and more people start getting it, then, you won't get that sort of hesitation. But I think definitely it is going to be huge. So that's why I really want to get into it.
It's a lot more common on the sort of kind of
commercial
projects.
Especially in Europe. Definitely.
Yeah.
Kasambi's made a lot of progress.
I've been seeing a few projects coming through because I follow Kasambi on Instagram, and I've seen their projects come through. Some of them are amazing, like even just the lighting, and then you can put like scenes within it and on timers. So even at like certain times of the day, you can have colors showing. And there's also got I think it's Foss Lighting. They have this halo light. So I started talking to Foss Lighting, and I found out that they have at the moment, we install a lot of downlights with 3 settings. So you can choose between a natural light, a cool light, or a warm light. But we have to do it before we put it up into the roof. Okay. Whereas they've got a dimmer on these lights that change them. So you won't have to you can choose, instead of saying to the client, which one do you want before we put it up? And they say, I want all warm light in this room, I want cool light in here, and I want natural in this room. You can just go, here, take this dimmer, take these lights, and you can put it on whatever you want when you feel like it. And I think Kasambi will be able to do the same thing. So it'll save time doing that as well.
Yeah, it's good to see that kind of technology being brought into
Absolutely.
sort of residential.
It makes it really sort of usable, doesn't it?
We're sort of running out of time, but we could ask you loads of questions. But let's finish. Let's do those 2 questions.
Go on,
so I'm going to ask you, what's the one tool on site that you wouldn't want to be without? What's your kind of
pliers? Oh my God, they just do everything. Yeah, it's like a running joke that like I was watching a little Vine. What's it called? A TikTok, I think. I don't know that much about TikTok, but I saw it, and it's just like how electrician gets up in the day and they take off they're holding a pair of pliers and they take off the doona with the pliers, and they go to the toilet and they pull the toilet paper down with the pliers, and I'm like, yeah, pretty much. Yeah, so. Yeah,
your pliers, absolutely. So one last question then. What's the lighting like in your house?
Okay. So there's this thing that tradies always say that we'll always finish someone else's job but never our own.
Yeah.
So we recently moved into a house about a year ago, and as I'm looking up right now, there's like holes where the downlights are supposed to go in. I think there's still a downlight needs to be put up in Aria's room, which is my daughter. There's just bits of things that still need doing. I think we didn't put the LED strip around our mirrors in the bathroom for a really long time, so that's been really recent. But they say, like with trades, whatever trade you're in, that's what doesn't get done at your house.
Yeah.
So they're all the same.
Oh, that's
funny.
fantastic. Jett, it's been amazing to talk to you. There's so much chat in the side of the event saying how inspiring it is to hear your story, and thank you for sharing it. A couple of people have said thank you so much for mentioning the ADHD, because there's what Joy said, she's a lighting designer and a mom with a kid on the autism spectrum, and she said the path you went through is so inspiring that it's going to help her with her little one and stuff. So there's so much positivity coming through, and everybody's saying
I've got two little munchies, so I've got a 2-year-old and a 1-year-old, so it's hectic. I don't think I get much time to myself. Like even just now I run through the door and I'm just like, Philip, take the kids, I gotta do something. And I'm like, get it, put the computer on. I'm like, let me just brush my hair. And I've got Aria like in my makeup trying to pull it out. I'm like, just give me a second. So yeah.
What's your Instagram?
I think that's it.
Trading Sparky.
Okay.
Trading Sparky Chick. Yeah, somebody's put that in the chat as well. So look out. Hopefully you get loads of new followers. Thank you very much for joining us. You can relax now.
Thanks so much for all this. It's great hearing all your stories too. And thanks so much, Sharon, and Foss Lighting for the nomination, I guess, to do this.
Jett.
Thank you very much, Jett.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.